The American Jewish food culture has been an ongoing collection of cooking traditions of Jewish people worldwide.
Jewish cuisine has evolved for many centuries. The culture around it has been shaped by Jewish dietary laws, also known as kashrut, Jewish festival, and Sabbath traditions.
Kashrut or kosher is a type of Jewish dietary law, and kosher can be translated as proper. Certain foods, such as pork and shellfish, are forbidden, and meals cannot be combined with dairy. An article from week 3 called Justifications for Foodways and the Study of Commensality speaks about kosher laws and how someone is cruelly brutal in character if they are to cook an animal in milk. This is a ritualistic way to slaughter meat, and it is to be salted after to remove any blood.
Jewish festival is what is known as the Jewish holidays. Quite often, food traditions are associated with certain holidays. For example, during Passover, a Jewish household typically eats different foods during the week, some being matzah, cheroset, and crane. Matzah is an unleavened bread. Cheroset is fruit, nuts, spices, and sometimes wine, symbolizing the mortar that Israelites used for building while enslaved in Egypt. And crane is horseradish and beet relish.
Sabbath is a day set aside for rest and worship. Some foods eaten on the Sabbath are kosher wine, challah, gefilte fish, cholent, and kugel. Kugel is a baked pudding or casserole commonly made from egg, noodles, or potato. Kosher wine is grape wine produced according to kosher law.
Food tells a story, and for Jewish foods in particular, they tell stories of the Jewish past. Challah bread is woven with 6 strands, and usually 2 loaves are baked. Each strand on the loaves represents one of the 12 tribes of Israel. There was a showbread offering in the Holy Temple of Jerusalem, where 12 loaves were made in commemoration of the 12 tribes. Matzah represents when the Israelites left Egypt in such a hurry that they couldn't wait for their bread to rise. It is a symbol of redemption and freedom, and is a reminder to be humble.
Okay, what is your favorite Jewish meal?
Like full night meal, like. Okay, I'm assuming you're gonna edit some of this audio. Do you want to just start again?
No, it's fine.
That's bad. Okay.
We'll just trim it.
Yeah. Okay. So, like dish or like meal?
Meal.
Okay, it's Shabbat. Shabbat evening would be my Jewish favorite dish because meal. Sorry.
What's your favorite dish then?
Man, it's hard. There's a lot of good. On Saturday afternoons, there's a lot of good brisket. A good beef brisket, a good sweet noodle kugel, or some rugelach is good. Rugelach is like a dessert though. It's like a pastry.
That's a good time.
Yeah. But for Shabbat evening, usually there's a number of courses, and you get like first comes out challah, which is these big loaves of braided bread that are kind of covered in a light egg coat before they're baked, and some toppings on top sometimes. And so that gets passed around the table, and you eat that with a bunch of different dips, like some hummus or maybe guacamole or some harif, which is just like spicy sauce. Yeah, so then after that, usually comes fish of some kind. And so at Rabbi Jack and Shira's house, they have salmon and gefilte fish, but not like the gefilte fish that you buy from the store that's like cold and in a jar with this terrible goop. His wife Shira is from Yemen, or from Israel, but her family is Yemeni. And it's cooked that way, and it's this really kind of warm, soft, savory, delicious gefilte fish. And then after that you get some soup, maybe some matzo ball soup, or some sweet onion soup. And then comes the chicken. And you get a few different kinds of chicken is almost always present at a Shabbat meal. It could be barbecue chicken, could be shawarma chicken, could be lemon chicken, could be all three.
Wow.
Along with that, you'll have probably some rice and some vegetables, some kugel, some potatoes. Uh, um, it's like a banquet every Friday night, really. And then after that, you have dessert.
Okay.
Yeah,
That sounds good.
it's a good
Okay, do
time.
you want to ask him the next one?
Is there any holiday you like better than a different one because of the food?
Oh man, I always look forward to Hanukkah because of latkes. Latkes, I guess, are basically told as like potato pancakes. It's like a different kind of hash brown. The way my mom always made latkes, and I haven't had any that are better than hers. I know everyone always says that. It's cliche, but it's true. And everybody else that comes to my mom's house says that too, so I think it's true. So the way that my mom does it is there's a certain ratio of potatoes, and use like the Idaho russet potatoes to sweet onions. And I think it's like a half an onion per potato. It's a lot. There's a lot of onion in it, and you put it all through a food processor. So we would peel the potatoes, and dice them into large chunks, and do the same with the onions. And then you'd put a couple of chunks of potato and a couple chunks of onion, and it goes through the food processor into this kind of coarse hash brown like texture, and you do that until you get a lot of it, and then you take this big mass, and you'd actually have to wring it out with a rag. You'd tie a rag around this ball of it, and you'd squeeze it to get all the potato starch out of it so that it doesn't get too dry. And so then you put that in a bowl, and then you mix it with egg, and then you fry it in the thin layer of oil, and you get these little kind of potato pancakes, and then you put that on a plate and you eat it with applesauce. And some people like sour cream, but I think they're crazy. No, eating it with applesauce, and that's delicious.
And that's just at Hanukkah?
That's Hanukkah, yeah.
Okay.
So the whole point of Hanukkah is that the oil in the menorah lasted longer. That it was only enough to last one day, and it lasted 8. And so that's like the miracle of Hanukkah. And so to remember that, you fry things in oil. It's like convenient. Yeah, right?
Convenient.
Yeah, so no, you use olive oil and you fry like latkes. And the other thing about Hanukkah is you get sufganiyot, which are the original donut. They're jelly filled. They're these very it's like a very spherical kind of puffy donut with jelly in the middle. It's usually a berry jelly, and you go to Israel, and it's like they're all crazy kinds of sufganiyot, and they go overboard on them, and it's pretty great. But it is the original donut, dating back like 2,000 years. It's crazy.
That sounds good too. Have you tried original Jewish food or just Americanized? If so, which one do you prefer?
Ooh, original Jewish food. That's kind of a tough question because in Israel, when you go back, everybody, all the Jews in Israel are immigrants from other countries, because when the Romans came in, like 2,000 years ago, whenever Hanukkah happened, sorry, that was the Greeks, awkward. Romans came in after banished all the Jews, and that was the diaspora. That's where it comes from, the spreading, and the Jews left and went to every corner of the earth, basically. And so you got kind of two main sects. You have the Ashkenaz Jews who went to Eastern Europe, and the Sephardic Jews, Spain, and I guess you have like Mizrahi, which means like East, like Yemen and Middle Eastern countries, who kind of stayed around there. Sephardic means from Spain, Morocco, etc. So they have different, as time progressed, they grew into you have some different customs as well as different foods. And so Sephardic food is very based around like rice and lentils, and it's a little more savory. So is Mizrahi food. And so it's like when you're asking original Jewish food, it's kind of hard to know, but like challah is like the original Jewish food, that like challah bread, and that's used throughout every Jewish culture. So I've had plenty of Americanized Jewish foods. I've had food in Israel, but Israeli cuisine isn't really like original Jewish cuisine. It's very Middle Eastern. There's shawarma, falafel.
Which one do you like better?
I mean, you're never going to get as good of falafel or shawarma here as you can there. That's just the bottom line.
Okay.
Hummus can get pretty close, but still not as good. Food in Israel is great, and one of the striking things actually about the food in Israel is the fresh produce, especially the vegetables. So, and they eat a lot of them. Like for breakfast, it's very common to have like a salad that's diced cucumbers and tomatoes, and peppers and something like that, just in a bowl, and it's really good because the vegetables there just have more of the vegetable flavor. Like a tomato tastes very tomatoey, a cucumber tastes very cucumbery, and a little less watery. And so the fresh produce there is really good. The dates there are incredible. I'm very hungry now.
So you already mentioned the backstory of the latkes and stuff, like why you fry them in the oil. Is there any other like foods for Jewish holidays that like have a specific backstory or like significance?
Yeah, like all of them.
I mean, maybe just mention like
a couple that stand
out. Sure. Well, I mean, if you want to start with challah, which you eat every Shabbat, it's one of the main principles behind Shabbat is like you call it, you welcome in the Shabbat wife. That's what it's called. Like you stand and you sing a prayer called the Chadadi, and you welcome in like the Shabbat queen or the Shabbat bride. And the principle is that it's a marriage between you and Shabbat through that day, and because of that, you have 2 candles, one for you and one for the Shabbat bride. And when you make challah, you have 2 strands that you weave together and it's braided like that. So it's 2, but they're intertwined. So also for Passover, every food of Passover has meaning. The main one, matzah. So like for 8 days, we don't eat any leavened bread, meaning we only eat bread that hasn't risen. So, and again, that kind of differs for Ashkenaz and Sephardic Jews. Sephardic Jews will like eat rice and oats and some other grains, while Ashkenaz Jews won't. But during Passover, it's like the Jews were leaving Egypt, so they left in a very big hurry. Ever since then, the Jews have always been in a hurry. No, but so they didn't have time for their bread to rise. So they unleavened bread or matzah. It's kind of almost like a saltine without salt. And yeah, so you eat that for 8 days. Also at Passover, you have something called the charoset, which is a mixture of usually nuts and apples and maybe some raisins or dates, and that is supposed to represent the mortar of the bricks, because when the Jews were slaves. So everything at Passover is very representative. You have a plate that has like, and it's in the middle of the table for the Seder, and you have like an egg on it and like a parsley leaf, usually is karpas, and a lamb shank, and it has like all the symbolic foods on it. And you go through the Seder, and you go through all these orders, and you do all these symbolic things. So like you dip vegetables, usually parsley or celery, into salt water and take a bite out of it for it to represent like the tears of the Jewish people as slaves. And so that's where the saltiness is coming from. And the lamb shank is where Passover gets its name, because the last of the 10 plagues was the killing of the firstborn son, and the Jews were told to slaughter a lamb and take the lamb bone and spread its blood over the doorpost, and the angel of death would pass over that house and not kill the firstborn child. So that's why you have the lamb shank. That's why it's called Passover. It's intense. You do, one of the interesting things you do is on Passover you drink 4 cups of wine, and each cup of wine has its own reason. But when you talk about the 10 plagues, each time you talk about one of the plagues, you dip in a finger and you take out some of the wine and you put it on the plate. So you're taking out some of your joy, because it did kill people and it was bad for the Egyptians. So,
okay.
Yeah, a lot of symbolism in Jewish food.
Are there any food restrictions that are really hard for you, like on certain days how you can't eat certain things? Like, are there any that are really hard for you?
Passover is rough.
Yeah.
Eating matzah for 8 days can get rough on your digestive system. I make a lot of matzah brai, which is like you take matzah, put it under some running water just to wet it, and then you crumble it into some eggs and fry it. I like to put like some spinach or something else in the eggs, and then you just fry it in a pan like scrambled eggs, and it's pretty good. But after a week, it gets old,
Yeah.
And again, it's harder for Ashkenaz Jews because they can't have rice, they can't have corn, they can't have oats. And so I'm Sephardi, and so like I would eat oatmeal for breakfast. So I was like, well, at least I can do that.
Yeah.
And so like, there's a lot of stuff they can't eat. And I think the halacha, which is like Jewish law, halachically, it's like whether it takes 18 minutes to cook. I think was what the rabbis came to. Don't ask me how they got there. I don't know. I'm sure my rabbi knows. But that's rough. I don't keep kosher. For Jews that do keep kosher, it's really hard to go out and eat, especially in a place like Eugene. If you're in New York, you're fine. If you're in LA, you're probably okay. A place like Eugene is pretty hard. And one of the main concerns is that meat, to be kosher, has to be slaughtered in a kosher way. It's a very humane way, and most meat isn't slaughtered in the kosher way, and so that can be more expensive. Most often restaurants won't have that, so you'll go out, and for people who keep very strict kosher, like in their own kitchens, they'll have separate utensils and dishes for meat and for dairy and parve. And so they might not go out at all because other kitchens won't have that, even if they order a vegetable dish. Yeah.
Okay.
Do you specifically like to cook any dishes?
I like making challah. I only got into it recently. I learned how to make hamantashen, which are these little the pastry kind of cookies that you eat for Purim. And they're shaped like a little triangle, like what you'd imagine a pirate's hat, like a Captain Jack hat to look like. And in the middle, and like those sides are dough, and in the middle is like a filling of whatever you want, jelly or chocolate or whatever. And so those are pretty fun and easy and tasty. Latkes are good. I don't know how to cook a whole lot of Jewish food. I mean, my grandmother on my mom's side was French, and when she came to America, she cooked a lot, and she actually wrote a 600-page French cookbook called The French Woman's Cookbook for Her American Daughters. I really want to get it published. But right now, my mom has one, her sister, my aunt, has one, and her brother's wife, so my aunt, also has one, and it's like, there's a lot of Jewish cooking in there. Obviously, she's a French Jew, but her parents were from Spain and Turkey, further back, which is where the Sephardic comes from. But I don't know how to cook a whole lot. My mom knows how to cook a lot of really good food. Yeah.
Okay. Why is it important for you to follow the rules of when and what to eat for Jewish holidays?
A lot of it's the symbolism. It brings a lot of meaning to it, because when, like, going back to Passover, you're like, okay, it's day 6 and I'm eating matzah and not much else. Why am I doing that? Right? Because, well, the Jews were slaves in Egypt for 400 years, and I'm remembering that and being grateful that I'm not a slave in Egypt. And sorry about that. And it makes you think, and it takes you back. And if we look at Shabbat, it's pretty much the same meal every time. It varies, but it's so much about the community. And Jewish meals are way more than just about food, and even more about the symbolism, but about who's there with you. And, you go to a Shabbat meal at my rabbi's, and it's 40, 50 kids that show up there consistently every week, no matter, what else is going on in their lives. And it's just this amazing group of people that are coming together, for a few hours just to eat and relax and keep the Shabbat, which is what keeps the Jewish people Jewish.
Okay. That's kind of cool.
Have you always been accustomed to following Jewish culture, like, throughout your life?
The food
Like
culture?
the food?
Ooh. If you're talking about keeping kosher, then no. I grew up secular. But the foods that I would eat, so like, yeah, I ate Jewish dishes.
Mhm.
I guess I ate Jewish food, but I didn't keep kosher growing up.
Are you kosher now?
No, I don't keep kosher now. I've stopped eating pork. I'm really trying to stop eating. I'm really trying to stop eating shellfish, which is rough. I really like shellfish, I'm working towards it. We'll say that. And I stopped kind of mixing meat and dairy for the most part, but I'm definitely not gonna keep kosher fully for a long time. So I'm just not at a point in my life where that's feasible. I have to go out and I'll go eat Panda Express, which obviously is not gonna have kosher chicken.
Right.
That being said, I might not get the shrimp dish, something like that.
Okay.
It's kind of already been.
Yeah. Who makes the best Jewish dishes in your family?
My mother. No question, hands down.
And what does she make? What's your favorite dish that she makes for you?
Favorite Jewish dish? Man. Passover. She makes some really good charoset for Passover. She makes really good latkes. She makes just amazing chicken. And everything she cooks is good. It's hard to put a favorite dish on it. And my parents, to be fair, when we have salmon, my dad won this Traeger smoker just by chance out of a business card drawing, and so most meat or fish will cook on the smoker now, and that's pretty damn good. That's pretty good. It's tender and flaky. I want to go home and eat now.
I'm hungry too.
Is there anything else you wanted to say? Anything else you wanted to get out there about food or anything?
It's such a big part of Judaism. Like I said, it's so many Jewish holidays can be summed up in a joking manner of, they tried to kill us, we won, we're still here, let's eat and drink.
Okay, what is your favorite Jewish